Despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, will get some degree of respite for one full month as sports enthusiasts are bracing for Euro Cup, the mega football extravaganza being hosted by 11 different European cities for the first time. Global football fans and those in Nepal too are sure to be glued to their television sets for the tournament that was pushed by a year due to the pandemic. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanama and these are the top stories of the hour. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's recent political gambits to counter disgruntled faction within the ruling party start backfiring. 67 more deaths due to coronavirus reported in the past 24 hours. Over 2,700 individuals test positive. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson kicks off the G7 summit, urging fellow world leaders to build back better after the COVID pandemic. And Australia defeats Nepal 3-0 at the World Cup qualifiers match last night. Football enthusiasts say Nepal's performance satisfactory. Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's recent political gambits, largely triggered to counter the disgruntled faction within the ruling party, seem to have backfired. Premier Oli was compelled to withdraw a number of political decisions since the reinstatement of former CPN UML 4 months ago, while he has tasted defeat on political alliance as well.
Even as the Supreme Court 3 months ago in a landmark verdict nullified the merger between UML and Maoist Centre, taking the bodies to the status quo before May 2018, Prime Minister Oli showed no inclination to resurrect the party structure. Prime Minister Oli did not summon a single meeting of the Central Committee that existed before May 2018. On the contrary, Prime Minister Oli single-handedly nominated leaders who had joined hands with him from the Maoist Centre and the new Central Committee. The Premier even scrapped responsibilities of a number of leaders aligned to Nepal faction. He not only transformed the party's Central Committee into General Convention Organization Committee, but also went on to take action against these leaders from the Nepal faction. In the meantime, court has started issuing interim order staying the government decision, which has been a massive setback on the unilateral raise of the Prime Minister. Likewise, Prime Minister Oli has also started tasting defeats in terms of his political alliance, as his candidates, including Ram Bahadur Thapa, were defeated in the recent National Assembly by-election. On Thursday, Gandaki Chief Minister failed to win the confidence vote, paving way to the formation of a new government likely to be led by Nepali Congress. Likewise, in Karnali province, the Oli faction leaders had to pull out of the government when they tried to topple the Maoist-led government. The central government too has fallen into minority, while the Supreme Court verdict against the government move of dissolving the House will lead to the Prime Minister losing his hold on the government. The present political scenario only suggests that the Prime Minister finds himself cornered by his own strategy of holding on to the power by any means.
Provincial Chief of Gandaki Province Sita Kumari Paudel has called on the political parties for the formation of a new government. Province Chief Paudel has given a deadline of 24 hours under Section 5 of Article 168, calling the parties to stake their claim for a new government. Chief Minister Prithvi Subba Gurung's failure to clinch the confidence vote paved way for the formation of a new government. The Chief Minister needed 31 votes to hold on to his position. However, he could only garner 27. This automatically rendered the Gandaki provincial government to the status of caretaker. Meanwhile, the opposition alliance has stated that it is going to stake its claim for the formation of the new government. The opposition alliance has floated the name of Congress leader Krishna Chandra Nepali as the chief minister. Meanwhile, Rashtriya Jana Morcha has once again taken action against its lawmaker Krishna Thapa, who was earlier reinstated by the Supreme Court. Provincial House Speaker Netranath Adhikari informed that Thapa has been relieved from his position of lawmaker. The country continues to reel under coronavirus as 67 deaths due to coronavirus were registered in the past 24 hours, taking the COVID-19 death tally to 8,305. Meanwhile, the total number of COVID-19 cases has reached 604,396 as 2,709 more individuals tested positive. The total infected includes 60.97% males and 39.03% females. According to the Health Ministry, 15,182 tests through the PCR method were carried out yesterday. 5,225 individuals registered full recovery, taking the recovery tally to over 5.2 million and the recovery rate to 86.1%. The death rate stands at 1.37%. Based on the latest report by the Health Ministry, 69,686 of the infected are currently in home isolation, 1,189 in intensive care units and 366 on ventilator support. The coronavirus infection rate has remained stable for the past 2 weeks. The infection rate has remained at around 31% despite the fluctuation witnessed in the number of tests, which has dwindled in recent days, even as the infection rate has largely remained constant. Some 2,709 individuals tested positive for coronavirus in the past 24 hours. The number indicates the infection rate has been going down. The pandemic, however, has not subsided as the number of tests on a daily basis has gone down to around 9,000. The infection rate 2 weeks ago as compared to that in the past several days are almost identical. Out of the 14,000 tests conducted on 29th of May, 2 weeks ago, 4,311 individuals had tested positive and the infection rate was 31%. The data within the past 2 weeks indicate that an average of 13,000 coronavirus tests were conducted on a daily basis, out of which over 4,000 samples came out positive. This means the infection rate stood at 31%. Health experts say that the government has failed to increase the number of tests and adopt strategic measures to identify high-risk areas. Around mid-May, the coronavirus patients had to line up for treatment at hospitals. The infection rate at the time was noted around 50%. The ongoing prohibitory order imposed for a month and a half has proved effective in controlling the pandemic in various urban areas. Meanwhile, general life has been affected by the coronavirus in rural areas. Shortage of experts to conduct testing has been reported, while the local residents in rural areas are unwilling to get tested. Infected patients have been freely venturing out, compounding the infection scenario. It is deemed critical if 7% of the total tests conducted are positive. The government, however, is carrying out legwork to ease the prohibitory order at a time when the infection rate has failed to subside. The surge in cases due to government's initiation to ease the prohibitory order cannot be ruled out. Nepal's southern neighbor India has once again intensified the construction works for a road to religious site Mansarovar in Tibet through Lipu Lake, Kalapani and Limpiadhura that falls under Nepalese territory.
Just over a year after India inaugurated the single-lane Mansarovar road through a video conference, the Indian Minister of Defence Rajnath Singh on Friday lauded Border Road Organisation for the construction of the road linking India with the Mansarovar region.
हमारी सीमाओं की सामरिक जरूरतें हों या फिर सीमावर्ती क्षेत्रों का सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट हो, इन सब के लिए जो सबसे महत्वपूर्ण कंपोनेंट है वह है कनेक्टिविटी। इस कनेक्टिविटी के लिए भीषण सर्दी, गर्मी, बरसात, बर्फबारी, जल भराव जैसी कठिनाइयों के बीच भी हमारे बॉर्डर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के कर्मी बिना थके, बिना थमे लगातार काम करते चले आ रहे हैं। वैसे कुछ स्थानों पर प्रत्यक्ष भी जाकर मैंने बॉर्डर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के कर्मियों को काम करते हुए देखा है। सचमुच उनके साहस और उनके शौर्य और उनके मैं परिश्रम की जितनी भी सराहना करूं वह कम है।
Meanwhile, the mine blast during the construction of the roadway has obstructed several roads on Nepali territory. In the meantime, the priority given to road through Nepali land has given way to more skepticism back home in Nepal. It may be recalled that the Foreign Ministry in Nepal had corresponded with India to stop the construction of the road last year, following the video clipping that saw Indian Defence Minister inaugurating the single-lane roadway. The Indian Foreign Ministry at the time had defended the road, citing it was constructed on their own land and if there was any difference, it would be resolved through dialogue. However, the Indian side since then has continued to ignore Nepali side's efforts to hold talks on the border dispute. Even as the dispute lingered, Nepal issued new political and administrative map incorporating lands up to Limpiathura on 28th of May last year. India at the time had rejected Nepal's new map, while it has now intensified road construction works on land which Nepal claims to be its own.
In our Public Voice segment, we've asked people in Palpa, how can we stop the illegal excavation of sand, gravel, pebbles, among others, from various rivers? Let's take a look at what they had to say.
धेरै मात्रामा बालुवाहरू उत्खनन गरेको अवस्था छ र यसलाई नियन्त्रणको लागि गाउँपालिकाले पनि रोकथामको लागि पहल गरिराखेको अवस्था छ।
बालुवा गिट्टीहरूको पुरै अधिकार स्थानीय तहमा भएर स्थानीय तहले व्यवस्थापन गर्न पाउने वातावरण हुने हो भने यसमा चाहिँ चोरी निकासी पनि अलिकता कम हुन्छ।
स्थानीय तह, वनको कार्यालय र स्थानीय जनताहरू सम्पूर्ण मिलेर यसलाई रोकथाम गर्नु जरुरत देखिन्छ।
चोरी निकासी हटाउनको लागि, कम गर्नको लागि अब स्थानीय तहहरूले पहल गर्नु पर्यो।
स्थानीयहरूले नै पहल गर्यो भने त्यो खास रोक्न सकिन्छ।
स्थानीय सरकार, प्रहरी प्रशासन लगायत हामी स्थानीय बासिन्दा पनि चनाखो भएर लाग्नुपर्ने देखिन्छ।
रोक्नलाई चाहिँ एक नम्बर चाहिँ सबभन्दा ठुलो इमानदारी हो र यसमा चाहिँ प्रशासनले पनि विशेष ध्यान दिनुपर्छ।
Time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, how do you evaluate Nepal's performance in the World Cup qualifiers? Your options are A, praiseworthy, B, satisfactory, and C, poor. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for the sports update. Nepal suffered a 3-0 defeat at the hands of Australia in the World Cup qualifier match held last night. Australia took the lead in the 6th minute itself in the match held at Kuwait's Jabir Al Ahmed International Stadium. Captain Matthew Leakey headed in to open Australia's account. Australia maintained its dominance early on and doubled its lead in the 30th minute through Frank Karisic, who utilised Leakey's pass. Nepal suffered another setback in the final minutes of the first half as defender Rohit Chand was given a red card by referee Ahmed Abu for a foul on Martin Boyle. Despite an improved performance in the second half, Nepal conceded another goal as Martin Boyle found the net in the 57th minute. Australia have remained undefeated in the ongoing World Cup qualifiers. 3 Nepalese players, Surajjiu Thakuri, Ayush Kalan and Kamal Thapa made their international debut through the match yesterday. National team coach Abdullah Al-Mutairi introduced the 3 players towards the last minutes of the match. With this, Nepal has concluded its World Cup qualifier campaign, bagging 6 points from 8 matches. Nepal remained in the 4th spot of the points table. Time now for our special segment, Media Watch.
The Constitutional Bench of the Supreme Court concluded the preliminary hearing on Wednesday on the writ petitions filed against the dissolution of the House of Representatives and directed the Office of the President and the Prime Minister to submit a clarification for their decision to dissolve the lower house. This has wrested the prolonged dispute regarding the structure of the Constitutional Bench and has paved way for a final decision. Analysts say a final decision on the writs can be expected soon. The bench has also put forth a plan for the final hearing on the writ petitions. Based on the Supreme Court decision taken on Wednesday, the Office of the President and the Prime Minister have each been given 7 days to furnish a clarification with no provision for extension of time. The Supreme Court has issued an interim order in the name of the government, staying the citizenship ordinance. The Constitutional Bench, including Chief Justice Cholendra Shamsher Rana, stayed the implementation of the ordinance until a final verdict in the case. The order states that the ordinance was issued with the intention of bypassing the parliamentary system immediately after the dissolution of the House of Representatives, even as the citizenship bill could not be endorsed for the past 3 years from a functioning parliament. Caretaker Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli on Thursday expanded his cabinet for the second time within a week, adding 7 ministers and 1 state minister. Premier Oli, who had dissolved the House of Representatives twice, introduced 8 ministers at a time when writ petitions are still under consideration at the Supreme Court, challenging his move to dissolve the lower house. The Prime Minister had just expanded his cabinet last week on 4th of June by including 10 leaders from the Mahanta Thakur faction of Janata Samajwadi Party and appointing Rajendra Mahato as the Deputy Prime Minister. Chief Minister of Gandaki Province, Prithvi Subha Gurung, failed to secure the vote of confidence from the Provincial Assembly on Thursday. Chief Minister Gurung failed to win the confidence vote after lawmakers from the Opposition Alliance voted against him. The Chief Minister needed the support of 31 lawmakers to prove a majority in the 60-member Provincial Assembly. However, Chief Minister Gurung secured only 27 votes in his favor, while 30 lawmakers voted against him. Meanwhile, Chief Minister of Sudur Paschim Province, Trilochan Bhatta, won the confidence vote in the 52-member Provincial Assembly on Tuesday. Chief Minister Bhatta garnered 30 votes in his favor, while 9 lawmakers voted against him in the vote of confidence. Bhatta needed the support of at least 27 lawmakers in the 52-member Provincial Assembly to form a government. The support from the Madhav Kumar Nepal-led faction of CPN-UML proved to be instrumental in Bhatta securing the confidence vote at the Provincial Assembly. This is Abhyuday Shrestha for Media Watch and Kantipur News Desk.
That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.